Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to press the button. Do not touch my camera. I didn't mean
So Sean has returned from, speaking of city council meetings, the local meeting here in Keene, New Hampshire, where we're doing this show, made international news a couple of weeks ago when local liberty activists showed up for the very first edition of the city council drinking game. About 8 activists showed up, 4 of which were actually engaging in the drinking game. I was one of them, and myself and Sam and Monica were arrested.
So it's really your call, it's your meeting. If you would like him removed from the process, we can do that.
Okay, I will give him, I'll make an announcement. I'll ask him if he wants to leave. If he doesn't, then we will proceed with the policy.
Who am I threatening? How did I threaten anybody? How did I threaten you? Ian, how did I threaten you? Are you here? How did I threaten you?
Whoa,
explain to me.
It was demanded that we hand over the bottles that we had. There were brown bottles that had labels that clearly said not a beer on them. And they yelled, the mayor threatened us, the man who calls himself the mayor threatened us over having those bottles.
Other people call him the mayor too.
Whatever. He's a man to me. Anyway, so they threatened us, and then the police chief came over and demanded the bottles from us. One activist gave the bottle up. She was allowed to stay. Then, because we asserted our right to privacy over what was in our bottles and refused to hand them over, refused to consent to a search, they arrested us and charged us with disorderly conduct.
Is an alcoholic beverage, the other one is not, because they don't know. So they're just throwing everyone out of the room, and this is a disgrace. He's a member of the press.
He's leaving.
I'd like the press to stay.
This is not a public forum any longer.
This week, tonight, the city council drinking game happened again. It was round 2, and I was hoping, crossing my fingers, that more people would show up. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe the activists decide this was a bad idea. They weren't going to show up. Sean, you were there. You experienced most of all of it, the whole thing?
I stayed there until they went into the second non-public session of the evening. We had about 35 people in the audience. About half of them were people I recognized as activists. There may have been more people I didn't recognize. I've not been in New Hampshire that long.
Mm-hmm. 35 people. Now, that's more than twice last time. Last time there were 8 activists and 7 others. And most of the 7 others, I recognized a good portion of them as being city bureaucrats or their family members. So obviously you've not been here long enough to recognize the city bureaucrats. If they were in the audience, I wouldn't imagine.
No, I wouldn't recognize them. I try to avoid interacting with those people.
Indeed. So what was your impression? What transpired? And did they crack down tonight?
Well, as soon as we got into the meeting, everybody stood up and swore allegiance to the piece of cloth in the front of the room.
Did everybody do that? Because last time a number of activists did not.
Well, okay, all the regular people did, but most of the activists did not.
About half.
That about sums it up, Sean.
How much?
We're the good people. They're the regular people.
About how much of the audience did not stand for the pledge?
I'd say 25 to 30%.
Not bad. More coming up here at 800-259-9231. One of my favorite parts of the video from the first meeting was when Monica stands up and turns around to face away from the flag during the pledge. More coming up. All right, 800-259-9231. Just giving you a recap here of what happened at the City Council drinking game last time. It made international headlines.
I gave WMUR
as multiple arrests were made. This time around, there were more activists that were planning on showing up, and usually the way things go is when they have the numbers, the government people, they'll make the arrests. But when they are outnumbered, they will do nothing. And also when they are embarrassed by making poor choices, like making an arrest for somebody drinking out of drinking water or non-alcoholic beer out of a brown bottle in a city council meeting where drinks are allowed to be had, they sometimes learn their lessons and don't make a move. Sean is here, joining us here for the remainder of the program. You were at the city council drinking game round 2, and you were just getting into describing what the scene was like. And I just wanted to take a quick moment and address the pledge issue. Sean, did you participate in the pledge?
I did not.
Why? Don't you hate America?
I don't hate America. I don't have any particular allegiance to the flag, so I'm not going to pledge it.
Well, why don't you have an allegiance to the flag? I mean, we were all raised to respect the Stars and Stripes. Those are our forefathers died for this country.
Well, they weren't my forefathers. My forefathers were mostly in Ireland and Poland at the time. However, what this country is supposed to represent and what this country actually does represent are two very different things. And even so, I don't feel any particular loyalty to a piece of fabric.
Also, there's an idolatry factor.
Yeah,
I think
that's how it is
as well.
for me. I can understand that people across the board have different feelings about the Pledge of Allegiance and that kind of thing. But for me, what it seems like is something like idol worship. It seems like a secondary god. And if you're a Christian, then your stuff says that you shouldn't have other gods. That God is a jealous God and He doesn't want you to have other gods. But what if there was a religion based around worshiping the state of America or the federal government? If there was a religion that was in that way, what would it look like? Would it look like people standing around with their hands over their hearts, recanting a little prayer that they learned in unison? Would it be the inability to blaspheme and question the people that run that organization, or at the very least the sort of amorphous thought of the organization? Because America doesn't exist. I mean, it isn't
the United
real.
States.
The United States. I mean, it's even America. I mean, I suppose you can say that the landmass that people call North America exists, but to have do people really have an allegiance to the land? Because I don't think they do. That
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
People have an allegiance to a group.
They have allegiance to ideas, right? And the idea is of the state. In fact, the pledge is actually, beyond the idolatry, it was actually written by a socialist. So not only are you guys absolutely correct in what you're saying, but the pledge was written by a socialist. The purpose of the pledge is to indoctrinate people into a worshipful mindset surrounding the concept of the state. And that's the idea that we're talking about here. The state doesn't exist. The state is just an idea. It's just a concept that justifies in people's minds strange men and women enacting violence. Using the threat of force and actual force on other men and women. And
don't forget the funny costumes. You've got to have the funny costumes.
Well, in order, it kind of goes along with the whole program. So you got the flag, the costumes, and all of this this worship that surrounds the idea of the state. And that's why they were so offended at the drinking. And they're so offended at the idea that people would have fun, would try to have fun with their meetings, with their serious meeting. They're so important, and they're very, this is the state we're talking about here. This is public service. How dare you not take this seriously?
Are you a liberty activist willing to be on the front line against socialism? FreeKeene.com would like you to consider moving here to Keene. While Keene may have the largest number of liberty-oriented media outlets in the entire state of New Hampshire, there's still a need for more activists. Can you help them? Visit FreeKeene.com to see what's happening. FreeKeene.com hooks you up with all the liberty media in town. Join the Keene Liberty Activists and help free the beautiful city of Keene, New Hampshire from the clutches of the government. FreeKeene.com